What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Pulse Metrics channel. Today we got another NFL rankings video coming your way. Today we are going to be ranking quarterbacks. This was by far one of my most fun videos to ever rank. I mean, the quarterback play, honestly, even though there were a lot of interceptions this year, it looked pretty good. No complaints. One quick thing before we get started, if you disagree, please leave a comment below what you would change, what you disagree with, or what you agree with, and I just might end up responding. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, kicking things off at number 10, we have Brock Purdy, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. AKA Mr. Irrelevant. This guy was honestly pretty immaculate last year. I mean, he was propped up by good receivers, especially with George Kittle. Hey, he's on a pretty powerful team. Nobody expected him to be this good this year early, but he is. 308 completions out of 444 attempts. That's a 69.4 completion percentage. 4,280 yards, 6.9 yards per pass, 267.5 yards per game, 76 yards was his longest completion, 31 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, 28 times sacked, and 72.8 QBR, aka quarterback rating. I know I'm going to get the immediate crowd reaction like, ooh, this guy should be higher. I know. I mean, but, he hasn't played a significant amount of time yet in the league, so it's kind of hard to me to put this guy any higher than number 10, but his stats were really good this year that he should be in the top 10. It's just that these guys at number 9 are just a little bit better than him. Alright, moving on. At number 9, we have Jared Goff from the Detroit Lions. This guy had, one of the best seasons I've ever seen this guy have in his career. I mean, Jared Goff was so immaculate. I mean, he had two of, probably the fastest receivers I've ever seen, along with a good O-line, so that really gave him a lot of time to throw the ball. 407 completions out of 605 attempts. That's a 67.3 completion percentage, 4,575 yards, 7.6 yards per throw, 269.1 yards per game, 70 yards was his longest completion, 30 touchdowns to 12 picks, 30 times sacked, and a 60.3 QBR criminally. Again, I just feel like a lot of guys really love to underestimate this guy, really, underrate this guy a lot. But in my eyes, he was by far one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen so far this year. Alright, at number 8, we have Justin Herbert from the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, again, a lot of people like to criminally underrate this guy. I get it. But the reason I have him so low at 8 is because, and I don't include his stats. 1, because he did not play a full season. And 2, he lost 2 of his only wide receivers in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So you really got to wonder, is that going to be a deciding factor on Herbert's success? I think it is, but I still think he's going to have at least 30 touchdowns. Maybe in the higher 20s to at least 12 to 13 interceptions, if I'm being honest. Now, at number 7, we have the next up-and-coming guy. We have C.J. Stroud, Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Houston Texans. This guy was so immaculate last year, guys. I mean, he basically just took the entire Texans organization and turned it into contenders. 319 completions out of 499 attempts. That's a 63.9 completion percentage, 4,108 yards, 8.2 yards per pass, 273.9 yards per game, 75 yards was his longest completion, 23 touchdowns, so only 5 interceptions, 38 times sacked. I mean, because his offensive line still needs a lot of work, and a 57.5 completion percentage. Look, I know I'm gonna get the reaction. Brock Purdy. Hey, C.J. Stroud's played less years in the league than Brock Purdy. Why is he ahead of him? I mean, I know what I said, but the fact that his touchdowns, INTs ratios was 23 and 5, and here's the thing: C.J. Stroud took a garbage organization and turned it into a first-place contenders. The thing is, like, what Brock Purdy did, like, it was just nothing special. I mean, the 49ers were already good before him. And just adding Stephon Diggs to the equation is only going to make this guy 1,000 times more dangerous. Alright, next up, at number 6, we have Dak Prescott from the Dallas Cowboys. This guy last year, in my opinion, was probably the best pure passer. Out of all the quarterbacks, this guy was probably the best passer after last year. Doesn't mean that he's the best quarterback, though, because based on what he does in the playoffs, he is ass in the playoffs. However, during the regular season, this guy was insane. 410 completions out of 590 attempts. That's a 69.5 completion percentage. 4,516 total yards. 7.7 yards per pass. 265.6 yards per game. 92 yards was his longest reception. You know, that reception, that touchdown pass that he had against the Lions with CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, I saw that. I watched that game live. Anyway, we're getting off topic. 36 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions, 39 times sacked, and a 72.7 QB rating. I mean, the sack numbers keep getting higher and higher each year because they just lost Tyron Smith, so I can't even imagine how many times he's going to get sacked this year. But as long as he has CeeDee Lamb, then he should be good to go. I mean, his offense, he's got an okay coach and an okay playmaking, but hopefully Kellen Moore does us as good as he did for them. But overall, Dak Prescott, number 6, there just are 5 guys really right now that are better than him. One of those 5 guys, at number 5, we have Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. This guy had, a little bit of a slow start to the year, but he really was able to finish strong until he just got absolutely shoved in a locker by Mahomes and the Chiefs. However, his stats have really proved why he was a candidate for MVP. 385 completions out of 579 attempts. That's a 66.5 completion percentage, 4,306 yards, 7.4 yards per pass, 253.3 yards per game, 81 yards was his longest pass, 29 touchdowns to 18 interceptions. What are they doing here? But again, we're getting off topic. 24 times sacked, only 24 times sacked, and a 69.6 completion percentage. Excuse me, I meant to say QB rating. But, however, 111 rushing attempts. This should be 524. 524 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, and 15 touchdowns. Now, it wasn't tush-push touchdowns. It was just legitimate rushing touchdowns, and that's what makes this guy so good. Like, he had the most total touchdowns out of any quarterback in the entire league, so how could he not be a candidate for MVP? Alright, at number 4, we have Joey B, aka Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals. If he hadn't got injured, based on the start that he was on, if he hadn't gotten injured, this guy would have won MVP. I'm not even kidding. This guy would be a legitimate MVP candidate. But since he did get injured on a completely unrelated injury than his last, then, he was, I couldn't really include his stats on this one because it wouldn't be fair. However, my prediction, touchdown-interception ratio, I think he's going to throw at least 37 touchdowns. With T. Higgins being back and everything, they got a somewhat decent tight end, I think. I'm not sure. I'll have to look up their depth chart. But, at least 37 touchdowns to, I'm going to say, 12 picks. Because it sounds like the amount of interceptions that Joey B would throw. However, I think he will get sacked only 20 times, because they got a good offensive lineman with Amarius Mims in the draft, and I think he really will give Joe Burrow the amount of time that he needs to throw the ball. Alright, I'm going to get absolutely destroyed in the comments for this one, but at number 3, I got Jaylen Herz. Honestly, this guy was just okay last year, but based on the coordinators we had, based on the awful play calling we had, he was never really given the chance all that much. So if we hadn't have had Brian Johnson and all these bum ass guys, then he definitely would have been better. Like, we need someone like Shane Steichen running our offense. But again, like, the reason he's so higher than Josh, is because he had the second most amount of touchdowns, but he didn't have as many turnovers as Josh did. But 352 completions out of 538 attempts. That's a 65.4 completion percentage, 3,858 total yards, 7.2 yards per pass, 226.9 yards per game, 63 yards was his longest pass, 23 touchdowns to 15 interceptions, 36 times sacked, and a 60.1 QB rating, along with 157 rushing attempts, 605 yards, 3.9 yards per carry, and 15 tush pushes. I mean, this guy, even when he has a down year, he still is one of the best, if not the best, dual threat quarterback in the entire league. He's not the best quarterback in the entire league, but if it weren't for that, before that collapse, he found a way to win, against the Bills. Also, he beat Josh Allen, so, why shouldn't he be ahead of him? Before that big old collapse, he found a way to win. Even I don't care how many turnovers he threw, he found a way to win, and that is what you want to look for best in a quarterback, and also a quarterback that gets you 15 rushing and 23 passing touchdowns. And moving on, at number 2, we have the MVP of 2023. We have Lamar Jackson. This guy was just stupidly good last year. He really deserved the MVP. My only concern was, he's not the best passer. He's more of a runner. You can see he had 148 attempts, 821 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, and only 5 touchdowns. However, that 821 rushing yards is absolutely insane. However, for his passing stats, 307 completions out of 457 attempts. That's a 67.2 completion percentage, 3,678 yards, 8 yards per throw, 229.9 yards per game, 80 yards was his longest reception, 24 touchdowns out of only 7 interceptions, 37 times sacked, and a 64.7 QB rating. Again, if it weren't for him choking in the playoffs, this guy would be number 1. If he won the Super Bowl MVP and this year's MVP, then he would be number 1. However, since he had such a bad performance at the AFC Championship, his low amount of yards and low amount of touchdowns, it's really, really, really hard for me to rank this guy at number 1. I mean, he deserved MVP, but that was mainly because the quarterback play last year wasn't really as good as the years prior. And I'm sorry to you Ravens fans out there, but it's just true. And number 1, we have the Super Bowl MVP. We got Patrick Mahomes. I don't care how many times you put this guy down. He finds a way to win. I don't care if he threw 14 interceptions last year. People have got to stop just looking at the stats. I mean, you gotta watch the video. You gotta watch the videos of the games. Most of the interceptions last year. Same with Jaylen, and same with Josh Allen. Same with Mahomes. All of those interceptions, those weren't really their fault. Last year was mainly because his receivers couldn't catch the ball. I mean, they had the most drop passes out of any team. But first stats. 401 completions out of 597 attempts, 67.2 completion percentage, 4,183 yards, 7 yards per pass, 261.4 yards per game, 67 yards was his longest catch or longest throw, 27 touchdowns out of 14 interceptions, only 27 times sacked, and a 63.1 QB rating. Back-to-back Super Bowl champion. He should have at least been a candidate for MVP. But, nothing keeps this guy down for too long. He will find a way to win. He will find a way to come back in the second half. And he will find a way to beat you, no matter what team you are. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for my 2024 quarterback rankings. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and make sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 200 subscribers. Hopefully, we could get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the day. And if I do, I will do whatever the top comment says. So, thank you all, beautiful people. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.